We ready? What? Get your notebooks out. What are you guys doing?
Taking it, Sam.
Nah. Thank you. So guys, I passed out your packet. This is what you're going to be using for your homework for this next week. Okay? If you care about the environment, you can hand these back in to me when you're all done, so we can use them again next year. For today's, you will not need calculators. So, this chapter is really all review for you guys. It's just going to be a little bit harder notation. Or not notation, a little bit harder algebra, a little bit different notation. So as you can see, I already wrote on the board, we got some new notation. So this packet really likes to use F colon X arrow 1 over X. What the heck does that mean? It's really saying the same exact thing as F of X equals 1 over X. Which honestly gets kind of annoying that your packet does that, but I have seen that appear in the SAT occasionally. Well, they'll throw a question on here, and you're looking at it and you're freaking out, like, what the heck does that even mean? It just really means F of X equals 1 over X. And you could have anything for that. You might see like P, X, maybe 3x squared plus 1. You just have to recognize that's really saying P of X equals 3x squared plus 1. Guys, eye on that? Yeah? Can I erase this up? Yeah, all right, here we go. We are recording today, by the way. There's no bad words in the audience. Zach?
Yeah.
Not again. So we're going to talk about the domain. What else do you think we're going to talk about? Home on the range, where the deer and the antelope roam. What do we know about domain and range?
All possible x and y values.
So typically, these are going to be our x's, and typically our range is our y's. Does it have to be though? No. Okay, because you might have like P of t equals, or F of t. So, these are really going to be our inputs for a domain, and our range is really our outputs. Another way we might talk about that is in terms of variables. So this would be like our independent variable. Okay, which a lot of time is time. And then we have our dependent variable. So this will depend upon your input. Are we good with all of this? Okay, what if we had to find one algebraically? How are you going to find your domain?
Look for things like divided by 0.
Denominators.
And then there's also square roots and logarithms.
Very good. Square roots. And the logarithms. Does this all ring a bell? Good. So what do we do with our denominators? Set them not equal to 0. Not equal to 0. What about the square roots?
Greater than 0.
Well, what could you take the square root of? Can you take the square root of any negative numbers? Can you take the square root of positive numbers? Can you take the square root of 0?
Yes.
Yes. So we want it greater than or equal to 0. Does that make sense? Okay, because if you were to plug in 0 into a square root, you'd be fine. Any kind of positive numbers, you're fine. And then what about the logarithms? Can we take the logarithm of a negative number? No. Can you take the logarithm of a positive number?
Yes.
Yes. Can you take the logarithm of 0?
No.
No, log of 0 is undefined. If you guys remember your graph of a logarithm, it's a vertical asymptote at 0, and it looks like that. Okay, so you can't have 0 or negative numbers for a normal logarithm. Does this make sense? Ah, how do you find the range, guys? No ideas.
We don't.
Horizontal asymptote.
Graph it. Range is always a pain in the butt. If you're like, oh, find the domain, that's easy. You just think about all of your 3 things every single time. Asks you to find range, you're like, golly jeepers, I gotta graph this and figure out what y values are good and what y values are bad. Does this make sense? Enough of the review. Do you guys want to try some on your own? No?
I hate seeing it already.
Why? This is a fun unit. It's only a week long.
No. That kind of makes it better, but also make it worse.
Why?
Because then we have a week to learn like a ton of stuff.
None of it's new though. It's all review.
Yeah.
All right, here's your problem, guys. Find domain. F of x equals the square root of x plus 1 all over x squared minus the 4. Yeah? You guys know what really stinks? So this morning, I was in a hurry, so I went into the freezer and thought I'd grab a package of lasagna for lunch today.
What'd you grab?
I grabbed a package of spaghetti sauce, which is disappointing. But I guess I'm having spaghetti for supper now.
So, you don't have any lunch today?
Just me and my Takis today. And the Red Bull. Because I won't have time. We got advisory and I got lunch.
Just go like right now.
And all the calculus students will be in at lunch usually.
Bring food to schools or no?
I think they deliver. Yeah, because I've had students deliver pizza to my room before.
Oh. Okay.
Well, I guess I had to go meet them outside, but. You guys ready to go over this one or not?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do we have that we care about?
Square root's in the denominator.
I got a square root. What do I do with that square root?
Set greater than or equal to 0 for inside.
Yeah, just take the inside, set it greater than or equal to 0. You guys alright with that so far?
Yep.
Do I have a denominator?
Yes.
And what can my denominator never ever be?
0.
So I set this not equal to 0. We still good? Alright. So that means we have x must be greater than or equal to -1. Over here I would add 4. X squared cannot be 4. Square root both sides. Hopefully remember to plus or minus when we do the square root. So x cannot be plus or minus 2.
And then include that line TV.
What's that?
The line TV.
A line thing, a number line?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, just looking at this information, I can't really understand what my answer is. I would highly encourage you to draw a number line. Put the values that we care about on the number line and put them in numerical order. Does this make sense? I would then start with -1. Be like Jiminy Crickets, we gotta be greater than or equal to -1. Yeah. But then be like, look at this plus or minus the 2. We cannot be equal to the plus or the minus the 2. So I'm going to go back and put an open dot on both of those. So guys, we already excluded this whole area, right? Do we need to talk about -2 then, at all? No. So my answer is just going to be our shaded part. X equals -1 to 2. Include -1, but not 2. And I put a U for union, 2 to infinity. That is my domain. Any questions on that? No? Sweet. Hey, let's find the range then, shall we? Shall we, guys? What's with us today?
Can we use calculators for this?
Heck no.
Why not?
F of x equals x plus 3, all in the absolute value sign.
Wait, so what's the range of the first one?
I would never ask you to find range on that.
Okay.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah, I thought we were
doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's why I asked if we could use a calculator. Cause I'm sorry, but I'm not graphing.
What you would want to do though, is plug in -1, and then plug in a couple values till you start getting closer to 2. And you can kind of tell what's happening with our graph. And then you'd want to plug in the positive side of 2 and see what happens with our graph. Does that kind of make sense? If you ever had to do that without a calculator. I'm not going to ask you to do that without a calculator.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Remember how kind I am to you. Could make you figure this stuff out, and yes,
Wait, for the range one, is this the one that's like, you look at the y value and you see that it's at 3 and so, and it's not like a negative in front of it, so it's not flipped upside down, so it can be 3 to infinity, is that how that works?
we gotta think what this graph looks like, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully we see it's an absolute value function. What's that plus 3 doing to it though?
It's shifting it up 3.
If it was on the outside, it'd be shifting up 3. Guys, remember inside is always left and right,
Oh, it's.
and backwards of what makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's actually shifting left by 3, and my graph would look something like that. So my range is going to be all my possible y values. But, okay, so I'd start at the bottom, work my way up. What's my first y value I ever have? 0. Does it go up forever then from there?
Yeah.
Do I skip any other points in between?
No.
No, so my range would be y equals 0 to infinity. Do not include infinity, but we want to include 0. Does this make sense to us? Alrighty then, let's move on to function compositions. Function compositions. Function compositions. Function compositions! You guys are really lacking energy today. not dreary.
Almost.
I heard thunder this morning. Maybe it was last night.
That's dreary.
Do you know how much I miss lightning and thunderstorms?
So, last spring, when Rona hit, I was in Missouri,
Yeah?
and there was a thunderstorm that was on top of us. It woke us up at like 6 a.m. And it literally sounded like a cannon went off above us.
Yeah. Like, we don't really have lightning and thunderstorms
No.
in the valley. I really miss it.
I used to.
So guys, remember fog and goth?
Yep.
Okay, remember we don't write it literally as fog. Okay, this little O should be floating in the middle. Kind of like that. Does it make sense? Yes, 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 okay. What does fog really mean? The fog of war. F of G of X. Does this ring a bell? Goth is G of F of X.
Forgot it,
Thank you.
yeah.
Alright, do you guys want to try some now?
Sure.
Sure, yeah, heck yeah, we do. It's fun stuff, yeah? Okay. F of X equals 3x plus 7. And G of X is really going to be x minus 2 squared. Does that look like fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. For part A, I would like you to find fog. Fog, 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 fog. Don't worry, Zach. I'll need a javelin first.
I would have caught it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Should we try?
Yeah.
Want to try?
Yeah.
What do you want me to aim?
Wherever.
I'm gonna
Right
aim.
here.
No, I'm gonna aim for your right hand when you put it up. Don't hit Sammy. Very good.
That wasn't bad.
You guys get fog yet?
Yep.
Yeah, can we go over it then?
Yeah.
Yep, oh, yep. All right, here we go. So this is really gonna be f of g of x, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna wanna plug g of x into f of x. Now what you might wanna do is expand this guy first. Or we have x squared minus 4x plus 4. And I can plug that into f of x. Well, understand f of x is 3 times something plus 7, correct? So 3 times something plus 7. Now that something was really x squared minus 4x plus 4. So I just want to distribute my 3 in combined like terms, and then we are done. So 3x squared minus 12x plus 12 plus 7, which would be 19. You guys alright with that? You ready for part B then? Yeah?
Oh, it's -2? Oh, that's good.
Minus 2? Yeah, g of x is x minus 2 all squared.
That's cool. I thought it was, +2.
Ah. Alright, let's do part B, guys. I know you're on the edge of your seat, so here we go. Let us do Goth of 5. Because that sounds like fun. Goth of 5.
Does that mean you plug 5 into f of x?
It was so close.
Not enough force. You guys ready to go over this one? So the first thing I would do is rewrite this as g of f of 5. Does that make sense? Off to the side, I would encourage you to find f of 5. You could do this all on the inside, but it gets really confusing and weird with parentheses. So if I want to find f of 5, I plug 5 into f of x. Well, I get 3 times 5 plus 7. What does that come out to? 22. So I know that g of 5 is 22, so now I can find g of 22. I'd plug it back into my original one for g. That one definitely looks easier to figure what g of 22 is. So this is really going to be 22 minus 2, all squared. What is 22 minus 2? 20, and 20 squared is lucky number 400. You guys alright with this? I bet you just cannot wait for part C then, can you? Alrighty then. Part C it's just a fun time. On part C, what I would like you to do is find f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. Is this a problem that will appear on your test?
Probably.
Guaranteed.
Why?
F of x will not be the same.
Why would you do this to us?
Want to know a fun fact?
Yeah.
If you take the limit of this as h approaches 0, this is equal to f prime of x.
What?
It's pretty cool, I don't know what that means.
So f prime in calculus would be the derivative or the slope of f of x. Does that make sense? So we'd find the slope of our function f of x.
So that's where derivatives come from?
Yep. So guys, how do we find f of x? Or f of x plus h? you plug x plus h into f of x. So f is 3 times something plus 7, correct? That something is really x plus h. So 3 times something plus 7, I'm plugging in x plus h. We then need to subtract f of x. So minus f of x is 3x plus 7, all divided by h. Can you guys clean that up for me? Using a little bit of algebra magic? Headshot. So this is going to be 3x plus 3h plus 7, correct? Right? Yes, yes, no, maybe, yeah. Yeah, okay. Make sure you remember to distribute this to both parts. So it's really going to be minus 3x minus 7, all divided by h. Now, can we reduce this at all?
Yes.
Yeah, fun fact, guys. When we subtract f of x, all of that's going to cancel every single time. If it doesn't, you screwed up. Negative 3x cancels with positive 3x. Negative 7 cancels with positive 7. So we really have 3h over h. You guys all right with that? What is 3h divided by h? 3. Remember I said this would be kind of the slope of f of x? Well, isn't that just 3 on this? Because the slope is always 3. You're going up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. Pretty neat. All right. How much time do we have?
5 minutes.
Heck yeah. We were going to get further than first hour. That never happens. Are you guys ready for this? Yeah? Okay. Ooh, graph. X squared minus 5x plus 4. That's all going to be over x minus the 4. How on earth do we graph this?
Back to the top and looking out.
Yeah, back to the top. Calculator will not be a good help on this. Whoop. Alex, what happens here?
Cancel.
What cancels?
X minus 4.
X minus 4. Do you guys remember what that means for us?
No.
It's a point discontinuity. Or what we like to call them point discos. So this is going to be a point disco at x equals what?
X equals 4.
X equals 4. You guys alright with that? My graph really looks like x minus 1. Does it make sense? Okay, so we're really trying to graph y equals x minus 1. We can find the y value of my point disk. Go how? Plug x equals 4 into whatever is left over. Okay, if we plug it into our original, we're going to get 0 over 0, which is not helpful. Okay, so we want to plug this into whatever's left. This will be kind of like y of 4 equals 4 minus 1. So our point disco is really going to be at 4 gamma 3. Our graph really looks like y equals x minus 1. So if you guys ever have to graph this, what would my y-intercept be? Negative 1. From there, I'd go up 1 over 1. However, we have a hole, or a point disco, at 4 gamma 3. Okay, which is really tricky because if you guys were to graph this in your calculator, it's just going to look like a straight line. It won't have a big old circle there. If you use trace though and go to x equals 4, it won't give you a y output. Okay, the reason being is it's undefined there. And remember your calculator, what it does is it graphs a whole bunch of points. So they're all just a little bunch of dots, and when they're all next to each other, it still looks like a straight line that's all connected. Okay, so if they leave one out, it's not going to have a big circle there. It's just not going to graph a circle. We put an open circle to make it very obvious and apparent to us that there's a point disco. Does this make sense? Guys, all right with all that? Ready to call it quits? Okay.